We all know about Joan Crawford's notorious feud with Bette Davis during the filming of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. But that wasn't the first shoot plagued with issues centred around Joan. This is the story of Jonny Guitar, a shoot full of animosity, jealousy, and Joan's need to take complete control.
A man can lie, steal, and even kill. But as long as he hangs on to his pride, he's still a man. All a woman has to do is slip once.
Published in 1953, Roy Chancellor's novel Jonny Guitar was dedicated to Joan, said to have been done so because she was the inspiration behind the character of Vienna, the strong-willed, defiant, and ambitious female protagonist, traits we can likely agree suited Joan. A personal friend of Roy's, Joan wasn't just flattered by such a powerful character being written in her honour, she knew that she was the only person who could play Vienna on screen. And damned if anyone was going to come between Joan and the part. She did the one thing that could guarantee securing the role. She bought the rights to the novel. If anyone wanted to film it, they'd have no choice but to hire Joan as the female lead. The rights secured, Joan set to work getting the picture commissioned. She approached Republic Pictures on the condition they cast her as the female lead and hire Nick Ray, the lover with whom she was having an affair, to direct. Eager to get the movie into production, Republic agreed to Joan's terms, male-driven westerns being one of the biggest box office draws at the time. The film would not remain male-driven for long. Joan would insist on changes that would put her front and centre of the movie, and she'd make life hell for anyone who stood in her way.
You're acting like she's some fine lady. Well, she ain't. So you better wake up.
A few months later, in October 1953, filming began. The cast and crew set up on location in the small city of Sedona, Arizona to shoot the movie. Locals turned out in droves to glimpse the movie stars in their small town, excited to see how the filming would unfold. They would not have expected things to unravel quite as they did. Negative headlines would swirl around the production, usually as a result of Joan's bad behaviour. From day one, she asserted her dominance, taking control immediately. Republic caved to her every demand. The project had only been possible because of her, and she repeatedly threatened to quit if they didn't do as she said. Their hands were tied. She was the movie's biggest draw, and they needed to keep her happy. Joan could do whatever she wanted. And she would change the whole direction of the movie, so much so that the final product was almost unrecognisable compared to the novel. The controversial changes led to conflicts with almost everyone. She would clash with her co-stars. The antagonist, Emma Small, was to be played by Mercedes McCambridge. Mercedes was a well-regarded performer, coming into the movie only a few years after winning a Best Supporting Actress Academy Award. Joan soon came to resent her, and she made her feelings quite clear. Many of the cast and crew were mesmerised by Mercedes' powerful acting, how she gripped attention whenever she performed. In one scene, her character delivered an impassioned speech that was so well received, the crew erupted into applause once the scene had wrapped. Director, and let's not forget, Joan's lover, Nick joined in with the proceedings. Joan was seething. Watching from a distant hillside, she shook with fury. She was supposed to be the star, and was particularly aggrieved at the special attention she felt Nick was paying to Mercedes. Her fury continued into the evening. From her hotel room, she called the operator and demanded that a car be sent to collect her the following morning. She hung up. but she wasn't finished just yet. Later that night, Nick was making his way along the highway when he was met with an unexpected sight. Some of Mercedes' film costumes were scattered along it, stolen from her cabin and dumped there. Who did it? Well, nobody admitted to that, although I'm sure you can draw your own conclusions. The following morning, Nick took drastic measures. Mercedes was moved from her cabin into his, their shared space acting as a barrier between her and Joan. He also made sure schedules were adjusted to keep them as separate as possible. Joan demanded an urgent script meeting. She insisted Vienna must have a much larger role. Scripts would need to be urgently rewritten to accommodate this, and should this be refused, she'd carry out her earlier threat and walk. These rewrites would change the direction of the whole story and cause chaos. Jonny Guitar was written as a male-led vehicle, the story centred around the title character. Not anymore. Vienna was promoted from a background character to being the centre of the movie, everything revolving around her. Sterling Hayden as Jonny Guitar was now sidelined, reduced to looking on as Joan's Vienna took charge. The changes were so numerous and frequent that the scriptwriter was forced to rewrite on the set to accommodate Joan's demands. Vienna got more and more screen time, while everyone else had their scenes either reworked, shortened, or removed altogether. Joan also insisted the ending differ from the novel. The movie was to end with a showdown between Vienna and Emma, which of course, Vienna would win. Naturally, Joan would come out on top.
I'm going to kill you. I know. If I don't kill you first.
Following the previous evening's costume scattering incident, everybody tried to keep contact between Joan and Mercedes to a minimum. Only, it seemed like Joan didn't get the memo. She would often turn up uninvited to watch Mercedes film her scenes, scowling from her hillside vantage point. Trying to make amends, Mercedes later dropped by Joan's vodka-filled dressing room, only to be berated with, "What are you doing here?" Mercedes beat a hasty retreat. Filming in Sedona wrapped up in December 1953, the rest of the movie to be shot back in the studio in Los Angeles. The problems continued. Desperate to preserve her image, Joan took full control of her interior shots. She dictated the lighting until it met her satisfaction, Joan to appear luminous no matter the scene. She even controlled the temperature, insisting the stage be refrigerated to such an extent that fog appeared when people spoke. Everyone complained, but Joan would have none of it. Her complexion mattered more than their discomfort. By the time of the LA stage shoots, many on set were divided in their loyalties between Joan and Mercedes. Sterling Hayden's wife soon became the focus of Joan's scorn when she dared to side with her rival. Joan insisted she be removed from the set. Word soon spread about the issues surrounding the shoot, and it sent the media into a frenzy. A columnist ran a story about Joan having Sterling's wife ejected from the set. Joan was furious, phoning him to say, "This is Joan Crawford, you're a shit." There was more. Another columnist focused on the bottles of vodka strewn around Joan's dressing room, speculating that alcohol helped grease the skids on the troubled production. Joan was livid at the negative press, which implied perhaps rightly, that she was the source of all the trouble. It called for immediate action. That action came in the form of a full-page paid advertisement in the Phoenix Gazette. It carried a message signed by the crew. If there is a more cooperative, charming, talented, understanding, generous, unspoiled, thoughtful, approachable person in the motion picture business, we have not yet met him or her. A glowing endorsement indeed, with no input from Joan, one wonders. By the end of 1953, filming for Jonny Guitar wrapped. It wasn't long before those involved were only too happy to give their appraisals of Miss Crawford. Sterling Hayden was certainly in no hurry to see her again, saying, "There's not enough money in Hollywood to make me do another picture with Joan Crawford, and I like money." His set-ejected wife joined in with the damning feedback. "There is nothing too bad to say about Joan Crawford. If I ever see her again, I'll probably strike her face." Unfortunately, there's no evidence of them ever having met again, so she could carry out this threat. But perhaps the harshest criticism came from her on-set arch-rival, Mercedes. In an interview she gave after the movie's release, she scorned that Joan was a mean, tipsy, powerful, rotten egg lady. In other words, Joan was a badly behaved drunk. Despite all the turmoil, the film is now widely regarded as a classic in the Western genre. Joan's unusual decision to put the women at the centre of the action now considered groundbreaking. So, perhaps her total control over the picture was justified in the end. It would be only a few years later that Joan would be embroiled in her most famous battle, her clashes with Bette Davis.